The Real Angler Podcast with community Kevin Brannon is brought to you by Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. Built to look good and be tough. Promar and Ahi USA. Premium fishing products and accessories with concepts developed by passionate anglers. Channel Island Sport Fishing. Offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats. And more. Mossy Oak. From hot days in the water to sweltering afternoons in the woods, we've got you covered. Outfit your obsession. The Latino Business Expo, Ventura County's largest networking event. Special thanks to Bruce at Kirby Subaru in Ventura. It's the Real Angler Show, live here on Rough Edge FM. And now, here's your host, Kevin Brannon. Hello again. So it's the Real Angler Podcast with Kevin Brannon. We got Barry here, right here. So we're getting ready to start here. We have Carolyn Mullin from the Oxnard Performing Arts Center, OPAC nonprofit. So I'll let you two get to it, and I'll be right over here if you need me.
All right.
Thank you.
How's it going?
It's going.
We got you in.
Finally.
Yeah, we've been trying to get her penciled in for a little while, and Scotty went to Hawaii, so we had to do some reconfiguring, and got you in here. And some of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in, we kind of cross paths a lot in the nonprofit world, World Guppy Outdoors, and networking and what nonprofit looks like, and just want to utilize our platform to let people know about what's going on here locally with other nonprofits, and also the passion behind it, because you got to be a little cuckoo to do nonprofit, right, and be a director and be creative, but you can be creative. I actually visited your facility when we did the Channel Islands, the university tour of other partners, and there you're one of the partners like we are with them. And anyway, so then I thought it'd be great to have you come in, and for multiple reasons, but those are just some of the reasons that we'll talk about. We don't use a script or anything here. We don't really write out too many questions. It's like a 30-minute interview and a conversation, and let people know, again, what you guys do and maybe any kind of events you have coming up. And again, also the fun about nonprofit and what got you excited to be a director and to hang in the nonprofit. So all that fun stuff. So go ahead and jump in wherever you like.
Oh, well, okay. I'm Carolyn Merino Mullin. I'm the executive director for the Oxnard Performing Arts Center nonprofit, better known as OPAC. I've been at the center for almost 7 years, gone through a lot of challenges and change and ups and downs. It's a roller coaster, but I love what I do. Giving back to the community, I think like community Kevin.
Say that one more time.
I love giving back to the community, and Kevin is a great example. I mean, there's so much passion, and it is contagious, right? I mean, doing good work, it's just contagious, and I love that. So, and I think as the director for a nonprofit, right, you're the creative vision and the visionary behind what you do and where you can go as an organization, and I love that. I think I'm not an artist, but I'd like to think that I am creative, and I like to build things. I just like to build nonprofits and programming and impact. So that's kind of a little...
I'm sitting you on a tag real quick at the same time. Sorry,
I love that you're multitasking. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, do you want
me to just keep talking? Because I can talk.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, talk. Like one thing for sure is like when we went there with the arts thing is you took us to all these different cool rooms that you had at the OPAC, right? And that's a historic building, and it's been through... Yes. Right, the city's owned it or something. Give us some history on that, and fought to keep it open. And you ever see that movie? I think it's Breaking. No, it's not Breaking. God, how did you forget the name?
Well, what's it about?
Breaking. It's about breakdancers, but they're saving this ozone, and they're doing they're trying to save an arts center. How do you not know the name of this, Kevin? I'm gonna write it myself up. Anyway, they have to Breaking, that's what it's called, Breaking, right? Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo, something like that. But anyway, they had to save a performing arts center. And there's art, and that's like even with us, a nonprofit, it's just keeping our building where we're at, right? But I would think about that and how right before they lose the building. They end up doing it. Shooter McGavin plays one of the guys in the city that's trying to help them save it, and they're trying to save this performing arts center. So anyway, when I think about nonprofit and how the doors open, I always reflect back to that movie when they're really trying to do that to keep the center open for these kids.
Story as old as time in the arts.
Yeah,
yes. Well, some history. It is a building that is owned by the city of Oxnard. It was built in 1968. At the time, it was the only performing arts center in the entire county. So if you do come and explore all the spaces, because yes, we have a 1,600 seat theater, but we have a whole community center, and it still says Oxnard Community Center on the exterior of the building, but every room is named after a city in the county. So we have the Fillmore room, the
Wainimi room. I took a picture of that room. You know that.
Thousand Oaks, Santa Paula, Camarillo, Ventura, Oxnard. So it's a great space, and it's huge. It's got to be one of the largest cultural anchors in the entire county. It takes up 2 city blocks. It adjoins, I think, an 11-acre park next to it. So it's a pretty special initiative. And when it was built, there was nothing around. It was just, from what I understand, tomato fields surrounding it. And it's infilled with housing and downtown adjacent, but centrally located for Oxnard and for the county, really. We do about 1,500 events a year.
Wow.
So I know it's not us producing it, but that's the utilization, right? Over 200 nonprofit organizations use the facility. So you'll see everything from the Gem and Mineral Society having their meetings.
All the nerdy, geeky stuff I like.
Oh, yeah. Like the Martin Luther King celebration, the Vietnamese New Year, the Mother's Day Mariachi Festival. Those are some of the bigger, more iconic ones. So the city built it in 1968. The residents actually fundraised to build it as well. I think there was some government money there, but I mean, really, I have scrapbooks from the first few years, and it's incredible. And it shows you the community raising more and more money to make this building happen. So an important place, very much an important place. Our nonprofit, the Oxnard Performing Arts Center Corporation, that's a mouthful. So we rebranded as OPAC. Yeah. But we were started in the late 90s to kind of be that nonprofit arm for the center. And this is typical in the nonprofit sector or the performing arts sector. You have your friends of kind of organization. And, I think it served its purpose. It was more of a rubber stamping organization. It didn't have a lot of autonomy or agency, but it was there. I think the idea was that this nonprofit would do fundraising, do all these things. And this is like political, complicated stuff, but as the city of Oxnard was funding operations, it would subsidize operations. So our subsidy was about $1.2 million a year. And it went on like that for 20 some odd years. And then but not a lot of innovation. It never really functioned like a true performing arts center where you would present a season of programming on the stage. It was more of a rental house, but I mean, still used and beloved by the community. So when the city hit budget cuts in 2019, right, we were facing closure, and other things in the city were too. I mean, the art museum closed during that time. So it's been very challenging.
The art museum, Goldswing Museum. Right.
Yeah, Goldwing's closed, I think, before the budget cuts, and I don't really know.
But that's still some of the things down in Oxnard though that are like kind of unique and special
100%.
For people to check out. That had a pretty cool, like inside. Like I went to the Goldswing Museum with my kids for a birthday party, and I think I was more excited than I'm like playing with all that neat stuff. I kind of try to capture that here, and then again, right across the street from that is the Carnegie Art Museum, right? So then you guys are like a block away. So again, it was in that little downtown area of little special stuff that we have, Yeah,
I think in times of crisis, the arts are the first thing to go, but they're also the thing we turn to most. So think about the pandemic. How did you keep your sanity?
Me? So that's a good
you might have gone fishing.
No, I wrote a couple books, right? No, but what I did was I took my arts, right? So I did, being a creator. I set my podcast up, my camera up in my living room, and I would do my own intros. Hi, it's Kevin with Real Anglers Fishing Show. I did a bunch of episodes, so I'll do my arts. But to segue that, I know that when I was at Oxnard College, the first thing when they did cuts was our film program. And that's arts, right?
Yep.
And they got rid of they tried to. They cut it down a lot. We were able to save it and get out there together and tie ourselves to trees and stuff to keep our performing arts. They got rid of a teacher. We were barely able to use that beautiful the theater that was put together there, about $10 million theater. We barely got access to it after that. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. First thing that goes is the arts and stuff. And But during the pandemic, that's where I was able to kind of get creative because I was in my little 1-bedroom apartment. So I was turn my camera on and I would film in my house. I would put Facebook Lives on doing the Crawdad Cafe cooking segments out of my kitchen, because one of the things we could do during the pandemic pretty much was fishing. Fishing industry went up like 800% because people couldn't go to concerts and go to games in the gym. So you had to go like outdoors. And fishing went up. So I was fishing, and I would just turn on my camera and do a bunch of self-promoting videos out of my living room to keep my sanity.
I believe it. But books, podcasts, music, everything, puzzles, any of these creative things. I mean, that's what people turn to. So I think the arts are incredibly important, but the arts, they struggle in this city, and I get it, but you're right. The Carnegie closed, and by July, every museum in Oxnard will have closed. Wow. We've lost the 2 automotive museums, the Murphy's closing in July, the Carnegie, so it's a challenge.
One of the things I used to do on my episode was called Museum in a Minute, and I would like to put 1-minute museum into my Real Anglers episodes. So I did one at the Maritime Museum. I did one at the CBC Museum, just to, sampling and try it out. But I love going out to Fillmore to their, we're not going to go too far into museum talk, but to capture these things, to put them in there as fun places that families can go to and explore in their backyard. Again, where we live out of Ventura County, between military bases and the history and agriculture and stuff, that we're able to do that, because even in those museums is another reflection of art. And I really love art. I mean, I'm a filmmaker. Remember, I was a kid, my kids would tell me, my teacher asked me, what do you do for a living? Because the way I look, and she told them, my dad's an exterminator. And they're like, I could see him doing that, I said, if you don't tell your teacher that I'm a documentary filmmaker that hasn't got their break yet, that's what you tell people. Your dad's a documentary filmmaker. I just haven't found my big break yet. So again, I really love the arts. When you come into our facility here, and I know that's one of the reasons that I wanted to interview you too, is to let people understand that creativity and art is just, or people are passionate about being a doctor or a lawyer, or maybe if you're not super academic like myself, but you're really artsy and creative, that there is even cooking. That's why I love cooking. That's another 100%. Art, right? Culinary art. So got me fired up on this whole art, whole art thing right now.
It's so funny. So my partner is like an actual artist, working, living. His work is in museum collections, taught in the arts as a professor for a long time. But he approaches his whole life as an artistic practice. But you were talking about food. Like when he makes breakfast or something, and he'll cut up an apple. It's like perfectly artfully arranged, and he thinks about that in anything he does. So I love that approach. Just changing your mindset and just having an artful life and a life of creativity is pretty special.
I know when we do our organization, like we did our fundraiser the other day, and I was talking to the people at HBCA that was helping us, and I'm like, I look at everything as a production. Since I'm a filmmaker, I do look at pre-production and like unfortunate, or I'm kind of the worst person to watch movies with. I'm like, I wonder how they got that shot. Man, I bet you the budget for so it's good and bad. But I do look at it from an artistic production. Even our kid days and the way that we do it, I look at it as a production, right? Like, how's this going to play out? So when the dolphins show up at the pier, I'll be like, oh yeah, just the way we scripted it for you guys. I'll try to like throw in something funny about it.
For that, huh?
Yeah. Well, we give God the credit. Like, the big guy opened up the skies for us or brought these animals. But the point is, when you're like that artistically, I think you do, and that's a beautiful thing. You just enjoy the world better if you look through it through an artistic place. Even when you're on the journey. Look at my Bob Rosses. I got them all over my inside the other side of this office. Yeah, I'm a super Bob Ross. All my film is like PBS. But again, this is your interview, but man, you got me. But the point to that is, if I'm bringing it full circle, is if you're listening to this and you're artistic or your children want to be more active that way, that we should support it versus, again, just going in and being it super academic,
100%. And creativity is actually the #1 soft skill that employers are looking for. So if you really want your kid to have a competitive edge in this crazy changing world that we're in, I would foster that in any way that you can. So with all of the challenges that we've had with the closure of the Carnegie Art Museum, OPAC has really, I mean, we're a performing arts organization, but we're so much more than that. So I'd like to think of us more as an art center broadly. We support local filmmakers as well. One of our first artists in residencies featured Arcelia Martinez, who is an Oxnard filmmaker, and she spent a year documenting teen Latina mental health in Oxnard because they had disproportionately high rates of suicide and suicide ideation. And she produced a short film, but created this conversation during the year about how do we take care of our mental health, which I think is has a lot of stigma in the Latino community.
A lot, especially men.
100%.
Everything is right. Everything is okay. Nothing to see here. Like, we're definitely bearers of everything is fine. Nothing to look at here. We got it all under control. So that's And that's what I think, sorry, jumping in, that person writing that out I call it doodling. Like I put my doodles, everything I do is on doodles. And for me, that could be a way that I do my mental strengthening. Because I talk about mental strengthening, not just the mental health, like how do you get stronger? So I think by being creative and being constructive, that's why fishing is such a therapeutic thing because or wellness, because your mind's going and you're looking at all those things that you see on the water. And I think there's important that we talk about that because it plagues cultures and men, and so I need to see that video.
Well, okay, I'm gonna have a recommendation for you. Bloom Homie is
Bloom Homie?
Bloom Homie. So that idea of Latinos, male Latinos, talking about wellness. It's a really cool nonprofit, so check that out. But the arts is wellness too. I mean, and that's another program that OPAC does. And
What's it called?
Arts is Wellness. We piloted it last year and we did a whole summer called Verano de Bienestar. So we had people come and do drum circles, watercolor painting, Reiki, yoga, healthy cooking classes. I think we're going to continue that into next year. But just realizing these are very simple tools in your arsenal to maintain your mental health.
See, we're always talking about ways to collaborate. We've talked about that, right? We kicked that collaboration ball around. We
actually have to do it then.
Right, but I think that would be one here. We have some students coming in from Channel Islands High School, from Upward, so I have a little bit more staffing this summer.
Oh, nice.
So it'd be cool to maybe, plus with summer being open, and we could do stuff during the week. We don't have to wait for everything to be a Saturday that has our Guppy Ranger programming into it.
100%.
But I think I was trying to pull off what it says right when you come into my office right here, that your creativity could take you anywhere in the Guppy Learning Center. And I think that'd be one I would really like to check out, because we have shells, we have rock that they could paint and do things, and we could even do a little cooking. But I think we found our next collaboration. If you're listening, Carolyn, right now, that I think that's kind of like an invite on camera.
100%. I'm down for anything. I mean, if you know me, I'm down to partner and collaborate. And I think it just makes us stronger, and you have more beauty in our community through that.
We call it cross-pollinating.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah, they made a joke at me when I was talking that at a board meeting, the importance of I was just been exterminator, right? So pollinating and cross-pollinating. Right, no, but the bees and the insects and stuff that do have to cross-pollinate, now they're doing structural damage and your kids are allergic, I got to do what I got to do. But the importance of cross-pollinating through our community. We work with, you came with us when we went with, and I use that over at the Community Roots Garden, right? And we're working with them. We have a little plot.
I'm very proud of you for that.
Yeah, thank you. We need to go throw some seeds in there and get it ready. But that's what kind of good thing, I don't mean to go off. Again, let's talk about this. You could be committed to what we just said. But when you have a capacity of a director and one or two staff,
I know.
What sounds good, that's why we talk about cross-pollinating, because we can share each other's resources. So what's ideally in our brains of collaborative efforts versus the manpower and the resource on a busy day and a hectic schedule isn't always as good. But there's ways that we could start to do that. But my point of that is, I'm sure there's things that you would love to do faster or quicker, that being a nonprofit, the hurdles of staffing and not as many resources, you can't get to everything that you'd love to do.
Yeah, we know that intimately. With the budget cuts, we had to lay off 60 employees. I mean,
60, like 60?
Yeah. Like
and do your job. And then they want you to come through on all the grant specifics and all the contracted work and perform a miracle with a handful of crumbs.
100%, and we did it, right? So we lost.
High five, because you won't let it fail, right?
No, I mean, we lost our city subsidy. We lost our employees. We had to restructure. There's a new, for those of you who don't know, and why I like this opportunity to talk about things, it's like to save the Performing Arts Center, it meant being innovative. So the city of Oxnard issued an RFP looking for a new operator. We didn't have any money, so we were in a good position. And it doesn't matter. We had teamed up with the Canyon. If you know them, they have their headquarters in Agora. So they now run the theater. So I think that's really important to mention to people, because it's very easy to get confused at what's happening at the Performing Arts Center.
So when I sent you the picture of the flyer earlier and saying, let's talk about that, I just see the Performing Arts Center. I think it's automatically your baby.
Exactly.
Anything that goes through there, I think. And that's why it's good to share the messaging to understand. So is that considered like a collab that you utilize them to help? Does that offset some of the things that are under your responsibility by having them on the kind of in the same facility and stuff?
It's interesting. So the Canyon actually has the management contract with the city of Oxnard for the entire complex. And there's two different arrangements. One for the theater, which they have exclusivity on. So we really don't have anything to do with the theater anymore. And then there's another arrangement just for the community center, which is our jam. So we kind of have a subcontractor agreement to manage and operate the community center side. So it's a little complicated. This agreement started in March of 2020, and then COVID shut down the theater 2 weeks later. later. So talk about a miracle, right? I mean,
Keep talking about the miracles.
We
need to understand the miracle workers, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been crazy. We had no money. So again, to go from where we
No
were.
money. I know that one.
Yeah, we had no money. But like we've inched our way. We're heading closer to $1 million operating budget, which is amazing.
Ooh.
I know. But obviously that sounds good.
I was gonna show you. I think so we did our budget the year before, and we thought ideally it would cost us about $200,000 to run, a little over $200,000 with staffing and doing what we normally would do out of my house, but without the staffing part and the facility cost and things that we've accumulated since we left my house.
Just keep that in mind. Facility costs, and we have a big facility.
We have somebody walking through on Friday. They want to make a donation in her husband's name, so she said, "Give me your wish list." So I showed her the budget. So the point is, we actually ran it for just under $90,000.
That's
we projected
amazing.
200,000. I'm cooking on a boat and I'm doing scooping bait for side money on the weekends and stuff. So I had to get creative, but we were able to accomplish so much. And when you start to build that confidence that it's possible, then they're in trouble, right? Because you know you can do it, right?
Yes.
Is it the easy? No, we did it for half. So that means I know I could run it at a set rate and keep the.
Yeah, but imagine what you could do with that $200,000 budget.
Imagine that. And we do imagine. That's part of it. Yeah. But the point of just saying that is that you understand in the way you're speaking on it, that there's so many costs that come with nonprofit that people don't understand.
Oh, 100%.
And they think, oh, you got a grant, you could do this. I've learned I'm not doing nothing outside my grant, really, because that's what I'm paid for. Why am I giving everything away when I'm contracted at this, and that's what my paycheck is for, versus just giving Kevin away for free? That's why I went incorporated into the Community Kevin thing, because nonprofit, again, at that, under half, imagine me trying to live in Southern California at half of what we budgeted for, but we still were able to perform. And see, I threw in the performance thing for you. But anyway, I like that you're saying this, because I want our viewers and our listeners to understand what miracle workers, what understaffed, what all these things really look like, besides the pictures on the gram that show, look, we pulled it off, ta-da, right?
I know, but it comes
it's like a magic act, right?
But I mean, it takes its toll, right? This has been emotionally draining, physically draining. I mean, it is a huge struggle. So, and then I think about artists and how are they supposed to make it in our community, if you're really trying to practice your craft. So that's the next goal. Can we get some artist housing, more opportunities for artists, more like well-paying?
I would love to pay my rent with art, or something. I'm just being facetious, but you know what I'm saying? Like I think that's why people don't support their kids and going into creativity lifestyle, because again, if you're in a band or what you're doing, the percentage, unlike the NFL, right? Like 1 year going to make 1% of yours really going to make it to be able to pay your bills off of this, or this safer route of you just going to get a job is that, right? So I think that's where people will start to, I call it cutting the wings off the butterfly, right? Because it's like, but you're going to struggle. But I'd rather be a struggling filmmaker, but now I have kids and I have other responsibilities I have to pay for. But being that supportive part of why people try to deteriorate, or what's the word, like send you towards detour you off for a safe and comfort lifestyle versus what you really love to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation. But we live in the state of California, which is such a benefit to creatives. We have to be the #1 creative state in the country and one of the leaders in the world. The creative economy, and that's a big word. It means a lot of things to a lot of people, but the creative economy in the state is bigger than agriculture. Like, it is one of the leading sectors that employs Californians. And here in the county, there's been some recent studies that show the creative economy is just behind agriculture. So it is a very strong industry, but most people don't understand it, because it can look like photographers who do weddings and baby photo shoots and things like that. It's people like me who are event planners and cultural workers. It's the filmmakers. It's all these creative industries that you just don't think about, and it's just not organized. So it doesn't have the same power, the same clout as necessarily as ag, but it is pretty impressive when you look at the data.
That's pretty cool, man. That's one of the things with our development here that we teach with the Guppy Rangers and our interns. And when they're coming in to start, they start actually this Saturday, is I tell them, you get to be creative here. You got to stay under the scope of what we're doing, right? We're not saving whales as environmentalists, right? Because they had that already. Again, our capacity. But I wrote a book about books and how we can make a small imprint on pollution and what goes on out there. But that's just not our, like, again, we don't want to get out of our scope, right? Yeah. I tell them that In-N-Out has 3 things that they sell, shakes, fries, and double doubles, and that's kind of where we want to stay to this. But now within that scope, you have creative freedom, again, to design the children's games that we're going to do on Saturday when we do a film or we do something. So they get to be creative versus dictator and what we need to do. Now, here's the umbrella, but I want you to feel like you're contributing more by being creative in the growth of this. Like Will helping us with the Guppy Ranger program from the university, letting them come in and help it, and then we'll restructure to make sure it stays under the vision of Kev. Yeah. But they have their hands in there in developing and being creative here under this. This is our Wonka factory right here. I was watching that movie Wonka, so I've been using that reference on everything.
Yeah, it's a good reference.
I just need a couple more Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
And we're going to have everlasting gobstoppers, and we make gourmet chocolate that everybody can enjoy.
Yeah. I love that.
That was my plug on being able to throw that into this interview, the Wonka reference.
No, that's very cool. And I guess in a way OPAC can relate. You know, I don't say no to much, right? And I think it helps grow OPAC's presence and impact and relevance. But you know, our visual arts programming is pretty outstanding. And I did this because the Carnegie Art Museum closed. But we have OPAC Art Studio, which is a free year-round program. We have a teen art program. We have a children's art program. We do a free monthly family art night. So you can come together as a family and just create.
When is that?
It changes every month because...
Is there a calendar? Where could people find the calendar for this? What's the best way? Yeah, let's get you some...
Go to the opac.org, which is our website, or Instagram. We're on Instagram as Oxnard PACC, and I think we're on Facebook as Oxnard Performing Arts. But any of those platforms, you'll find all of our upcoming events. We have a newsletter if you want to sign up for it. But it's great. I love that. It's just hands-on, creative, quality time. Rounding out our visual arts program.
It sounds a lot like the Guppy program. Go ahead.
No. You know, and I actually have a museum background. So when you were talking about museums earlier, I was like, I could talk about museums.
So before you leave, then, because we've decorated this place to be more of a museum, why don't you spend 5 minutes walking through our
I'm going to curate
museum. Right now, we have somebody helping with that, but you could definitely add to it because again, that's Leslie, one of our. We kind of got. What's his name? Isaac from the Goodwill came in and he started that because he wanted to be an ocean marine biologist. And then as we've been giving more donations and collecting more on our own, and the lady up in the front giving us some actual displays, I'll let you check it out. You can get, how about you give us a grade too and tell us. But again, since you said that, I want you to check out our little Guppy museum.
No, I mean the power of place and institutions and cultural spaces like that are super important. So I love that you're nerding out and wanting to do all the things.
Well, you know what's weird is just I was telling Leslie because she's like. Again, I like to show our staff and our the bigger picture as they're doing it. I call it the Mr. Miyagi. They don't know that they're painting the walls, that I'm throwing kicks in a minute, right? Or punches. Yeah. So I told her, I know this seems like a daunting task, like this guy has me sorting seashell, but this is one of the most important things to me. For me to be a director and do all these things, like I wanted this look, and I've been so busy in other directions that it didn't get the attention. That's, I mean, starting with Isaac to where it's at. So for me to relate to her, like, even though this seems like, what am I doing? Maybe, you know, she does our data input too. Sometimes it's like, take a break from the screen and work on that. But I let her know that how important her curating this and setting this out for me personally in my museum. I could sit in here by myself and everybody leaves and be like, I'm in my own museum. And just letting her know that that little task that she's performing means a lot to our facility and to me as well.
Well, I love that you bring this because it segues into my next thing. But to round out...
See why we don't script? We just go conversation. But go ahead.
To round out our visual arts programming, we don't have great gallery space at the Performing Arts Center, right? Because it's rentals and high usage. And we don't have security necessarily 24/7 to watch all the art. So we've teamed up with a Mexican consulate, again, talking about partnerships and the impact of collaboration. They get 96,000 visitors a year. And it's right here in Oxnard, serves the entire Central Coast region. But it's a government building. It's really stale. And for people who go to the consulate, and sometimes it's heavy stuff, right? Yeah. Like during the pandemic, people were arranging funeral transport for their loved ones back to Mexico. So again, pretty daunting, especially if you're undocumented in this and that. Government buildings just tend to be blah. So research shows that when you have a vibrant workplace, it inspires more productivity. So investing in your museum concept, I highly recommend it.
Look at my office. You ever look in somebody's office and you're like, dude, there's not a painting or a picture in here. Yeah. So if you could see in my office, I mean, people see all this stuff there.
I love all the chicheria.
But the reason is because I just think it brings a vibe. There's a culture. There's a vibe. You know? So when I go into the bank, like Chase is one of them, if you're listening, I'm like, why don't you guys have any pictures on your wall? And they're like, we're not allowed. I'm like, but the morale, no wonder the guy sits in his desk like this, right?
Yeah.
The importance of having that. So I'm glad that, again, your studies show that I'm not just crazy. see that there's a reason, the method to the madness, you know?
Yeah. And if I can plug the Mexican consulate,
Keep doing it. Plug
we
away.
have rotating shows throughout the year. Our next one is on Lucha Libre, so Mexican wrestling. It's portraiture from local wrestlers. So that opens June 13th. And we'll have tacos and live wrestling at the consulate.
Wrestling and tacos. Okay.
Yes, so
that sounds like a winner.
Yeah. But I want to show the breadth of what OPAC does.
Who does your social stuff? Your social media?
We're actually trying to hire someone.
If you guys will tag us in anything that you do, we'd love to share it. I just can't follow you as much, you know, but if you are, again, one of the ones that we talked about partnering and sharing it within our community of youth and family and local. So anything that you could share that back, and hopefully you could share this video with your social people to share it. But whatever you could tag us in, like, again, as soon as I seen that thing today, I was like, hey, you want to talk about this? Because I don't follow you as much, but anything that you give me a heads up on, I will attend and also share with our community.
Yeah. So besides our visual arts programming, OPAC does a lot of festival work and events, big scale events. So throughout the year, we do a Native Plant Fest, we do Rescue Con to save the whales because you're not doing it. I'm just kidding. This summer,
somebody already doing it. That's why we can't pick up the commitment.
I know. In July, we have Chelita, which is our art, music, and michelada festivals. That's happening in downtown Oxnard. Super fun, I know. We have Ichigo Con coming up in September, which is anime and gaming.
When is that? That sounds fun.
Now it's September 14th.
Yeah, I need to get please tag, if you're listening, your social people, please tag the Fly Fisherman or the Rogue Uppy Outdoors, so I could, because this is my thing. I really do like that stuff. I like culture. My mom went to school to be an anthropologist. I'm a National Geographic nerd, and I just think it opens up our mind, even if you can't discover these places. I heard about this term called worldview, right? I see other people's view of the world, and I think that's why I used to go to Agora Hills, and I see their class that sends their children to worldly things versus our people down here that know about our block, and that's about it. So if we could bring these things so they could get an idea of what other people are experiencing and see beautiful stuff that we can share it, I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, there's also just a lot locally, right? This idea of a staycation and just exploring what's in your own backyard.
Right.
And I think
you can do that in Ventura County.
Oh, 100%. There's so much. I love the Chumash Museum in Thousand Oaks. I could go. That's
the Channel Islands National Park. You can go up to Ojai and see horses. You know, there's all kinds of neat stuff that we could do. I always take the back roads out everywhere. I live in Wainimi, right? So I can take Wainimi Road and go. I get up on Grimes Canyon from Wainimi Road. I could take Lewis Road all the way back around to the 118 and drop down into the and watch all the colors change. And I used to be an exterminator through the 150 from Santa Paula to Ojai. Roll my windows down and smell it and see the canopy and stuff. Like, there's so many neat, beautiful things to see in our county. But anyway, that's another. We'll have to call you back.
Podcast.
Yeah, we'll put together a day in the Adel Nickel. All right, me and you, and we'll like highlight little cool little runoff spots. Maybe that'd be something we could like. Make sure you check this out. And during the summer, that'd be kind of, because this is boardwalk talk. It's not all fishing. There's neat little cool things that we could just because there's a boardwalk that goes right behind us.
I didn't know that term, but I love it.
Yeah, it's the boardwalk talk.
It's a boardwalk talk.
So keep going. We only got a few more minutes left, and I don't want to steal any of your thunder. Tell people where they could find you, if they can make donations, if they could help support, if they have children that are or adults that are listening. It's not always about the youth. I tell people there's a kid in all of us, or I go rambling. But in case there is somebody that's 28 and like 29 like me that went back to be a filmmaker that want to go back and get back into art, go ahead and give out some of your information.
Sure. It's the OPAC, opac.org online. Instagram is Oxnard PACC, or just Google the PAC. You'll find us. But we have so much all the time, and it changes all the time. So we've done DJ classes, audio engineering classes. We have a series called Insight and Sound, which we bring professional musicians like Ozo Motley and Chicano Batman to give their lessons learned, their stories from the road to our local musicians so they can avoid some of the pitfalls in trying to get into that industry.
Love that.
So that's OPAC.
That's so important. I think that people that's why I talk about the term development. There's so much importance. As a photographer, I could buy a bunch of, and it happened, buy some cheap frames. I go to an art show, talk to some other artists. They give me some ideas. You'd be surprised. That's why the investment in networking is important, because you could, some of the steps you could get a little bit further and learn. And it's so much worth the investment. And if those people are coming back, and all I ask people to do is when they get to a level that they come back, it's like cycling through right now. You're coming back through and you're helping be a teacher.
Well, and I see artists doing that. You know, I've met artists who feel like they can't stay here. They can't afford it, or they don't have their tribe, or they don't find support. So they go to Oakland, they go to LA. But then I also meet artists like Coloboy, who I miss dearly. He passed away. He was on our honorary board who never leave Oxnard. Either they never leave or they come back and they want to give back to their community. Jose Cano, who's on our honorary board, is in a band called Las Cafeteras. He came back to Oxnard. He started his own studio space. He's recording music for local musicians to help them get their start, get an LP out. So they have professionally recorded music to kind of pitch. So I'm very inspired by this community. Again, it's contagious. The do good, be good, feel good.
The more you give, the more you get.
100%. So I know Kevin's receptive. I'm receptive. If you want to do anything, please reach out to us. So
anything. That's what you tell them. See this little hat? Anything is possible. See how the worm's catching the fish versus the fish eating the worm?
Oh, I love
That's
that.
what that stands for. Anything is
know
possible. Against all odds, like my story.
I kind of want
Anything
that one.
is awesome.
I want
Anything is possible. So what I did was I drew this again, my doodles. I drew the worm with the boot and a hat catching a fish, and I gave it to my tattoo artist. Said, "Hey, bro, can you put this better? Can you make this better? Put this better. Can you make this better?" And I came back an hour later, and he put my muscles and my crazy face in there, and then that's been the Roll Angler logo, the Community Kevin logo now. But that's what it symbolizes when I drew it, was that anything is possible.
I love that.
And again, with the right mentorship, development,
Yes.
Thinking you can do it. If you have shortcomings, like I was teaching class today with the kids, asking for help. Don't be ashamed. Again, we talked about that mental health earlier in men. Everything is fine. Don't be afraid to be authentic, man, and vulnerable, and ask somebody for some help. And I'm Mr. Super Defensive. You make a crack at me, I'm defensive. It's just a mechanism I've had for a long time, and understanding that sometimes being... and I don't want criticism for everybody, so don't hear this and think you could just come up to me with your opinion. But when I ask for help and development and somebody tells me something and they're giving me some feedback that I respect and asked for, that again, I'm not defensive, that I understand that's part
That's
of the
hard.
growth,
It's our automatic reaction, right?
Especially as an artist.
You want to protect yourself and you feel like you're coming at it from the right. I get it. I totally get it. But I do want to say, no one started, Real Guppies Outdoor until you did it, right? OPAC wouldn't be where it is unless, someone took that first step. So, I guess
take that first step. That's our we always send them home with the motivational quote of the day. So just take that. If you're listening to this or watching it and I call it, you ever played what is that? Double Dutch?
Oh my gosh.
You ever seen that? And they're waiting right there to jump into the two ropes.
Yes.
And people are just waiting on the cliff. And another one I give is, when you jump out of an airplane, when you got some of the first time, that's called a tandem.
Okay.
They say, we're going to count to 3. And they say 1 and push you. Because when you hear 3, people automatically push themselves back in. So there's people that are hanging on the helicopter that I know are waiting to take that first step. So I trick them. So I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to invest in you. And they go 1, and I push them. So they can't pull themselves back in and gets nervous. So take that first step. And soar, man.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I love that.
All right. That's going to do it. Again, you got stuff to do. We'll have you back. We'll do some collaboration. That 30 minutes went by quick. Definitely something just the importance of being creative. I tell people, even if you're making cupcakes, you can see how I watch diners driving in dives, and go and meet somebody in a food truck and like, what were you doing? Well, I went to school to be an attorney and I really loved this. And after I got away from my parents, not, caring what they thought and being stuck in an office and in a suit, this is where I belong. And I'm here all day because I love being creative and cooking. And those are the stories that I try to share, because there's some people that for whatever reason, they venture off what their passions are. And then they come back. And if we could start to help you, if you're waiting on that double dutch to jump in or on the side of the helicopter, just take that first step, right?
There you go. Like it.
All right. So check it out. OPAC. Oh, yeah, she stole my line. Say it again.
What did I say?
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's it. We're out.
The Real Angler Podcast with community Kevin Brennan is brought to you by Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. Built to look good and be tough. Promar and Ahi USA. Premium fishing products and accessories with concepts developed by passionate anglers. Channel Island Sport Fishing. Offering deep sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats. And more. Mossy Oak. From hot days in the water to sweltering afternoons in the woods, we've got you covered. Outfit your obsession. The Latino Business Expo, Ventura County's largest networking event. Special thanks to Bruce at Kirby Subaru in Ventura. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.